Hola, welcome back to another episode of Karishma Connect. This is me, Karishma. I'm speaking to Sandeep Kumar, the founder of Baatu Tech, in this episode, who tells me more about his unique solution for this world where we are dealing with the woes of digital parenting and we feel guilty about giving children that tablet or that TV or that mobile just because we want to get work done on the side. Well, Baatu Tech is here to solve that issue with the Enable tab, which allows parents to supervise rather than control their child's activity online, while also giving them access to a host of different features that are especially curated based on expert research and insights. He also talks to me about coming up with a solution that offers something convenient to the consumer. How is that so important in today's times for entrepreneurs to keep in mind? He takes me back to the time when he owned a pepper spray company, and I can't help but be curious about the journey. So I asked him a few more questions, which you can check out on this episode. Until the next one, stay tuned. This is Karishma, and I'll be back yet again. Tada. Thank you so much, Sandeep, for joining me on this episode of Karishma Connect. It's a pleasure to have you. Can't wait to know more about Baatu Tech. And here I am, really excited about this one because I felt really intrigued by what you're doing and looking forward.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Most welcome. Sandeep, the first question I ask on Karishma Connect is always tell me about that journey that you've had so far. Tell me about how it started. Where have you been? What makes it so special to be where you are today?
Okay, so but to cut it short, I started business, as you say, at the age of 19. So I started at
Wow,
19.
that's
So
really young.
my first job was in a call center. It's Bangalore. I'm from Bangalore, so it was good money at that time. So the first job
Yes.
was a call center, and at that time I was still studying in college. I was doing my BBM. So
Okay.
as soon as the education got over, I wanted to have a career per se, the Indian mentality. So then I shifted from call center to a recruitment agency, learned recruitment over there for a couple of months,
Okay.
and started on my own from a one bedroom house. So that's where my recruitment agencies took place.
Okay.
So in the journey, I kind of ran my business for recruitment approximately around 9 years. And in that journey, I was the second guy in India to manufacture and sell pepper spray. And somewhere
Wow.
around in 2005, we were selling online. We were
Okay.
selling online. And this is before the Amazons, Flipkarts, everybody came into play. So we
Huh.
were selling online and it did decently well. It did actually very well for that time. And in 2009, I kind of dreams were not matching with what I was doing, whether it was recruitment or other entrepreneurial, trials that were going on. So I completely shifted my focus to real estate. So for approximately 12 years, I have been what you call as the builder in Bangalore.
Yeah.
In meanwhile, there was an urge to start something new. We had a couple of opportunities, which I let go by because when it came to Batu, what we are doing with Batu right now, that was more meaningful on both a personal level as a business level. Uh,
Hmm.
in so what happened for Batu is as simple as this: when we were in sales or when we were meeting people, every time we saw that parents always gave the phone to the kid to shut them up. This was their first thing. If they wanted to concentrate on anything, they wanted to give the phone. And after 15 minutes of the conversation was over, all you got to hear from the parents is, oh, they're addicted to their phones. Get the phone back. And the kid didn't want to give the phone back. This is a normal thing that you see. And
That's
this
very
kind of caught my eye because it's not a normal behavior. It's not a behavior that at least some of us in our generations grew up on. And then when
yeah.
I observed this pattern, I saw that it was the dining table, it was everywhere. Everywhere the phone was with the child.
Hmm.
And it was not the child's device. It had unhindered access to everything on the net. So there was nothing called as a child's device. So when I started digging more into it and I did my research, I saw that there is nothing that's there for children below 18 or 16 in terms of technology.
Mm.
So what adults consume, it's the same thing over there for children. And that's kind of alarming because today we speak on one side about a technological revolution with tech being everywhere. And children who are one of the most proficient users of this, they're
Mm.
not included in it. It's always
Yeah.
kept as an alternate for them at all times. So that's
Mm.
where it came to us that somehow we need to bring this big generation that is coming into the technological world into this. So how do we do it? And that was the birth of Batu.
That's interesting. But to me, the common thread in that journey is also your ability to start very young, I think, to first of all notice an insight into the younger generation, but even before that, to have started and then kind of having dabbled across different industries. What did that entail for you as an individual? What have you kind of learned from that journey that you've had?
So the journey just basically is, let's just keep it. There's one point that's the customer side.
Mm.
So I would always say know the customer and what is happening around them on an
Mm.
emotional level, and in terms of what their dreams are, their
Mm.
aspirations are before you do anything. That's number one.
Mm.
So that's something that I've learned all throughout my career, whether it was consulting in recruitment or whether it was real estate or pepper spray, uh, and now Batu. So that's one common thing that I've seen, that the customer and what their aspirations are is what drives businesses forward today.
How did you think about starting a business in pepper spray? I'm curious. I'm gonna come to Batu, but I'm really curious. Did you for a moment think, what am I going to do? Like, why am I doing this?
So I'll just tell you, it was a simple conversation that kicked it off.
Yeah.
So I was basically on call with a friend, and it was somewhere in December's. And in 2004, 2005, at that year, there were a lot of these incidents where women had some sort of
Yeah.
sexual harassment, and it was everywhere. It was everywhere, and there were a couple of big episodes where people were on the streets on those years. So I was just speaking to one of my friends, and she wanted to go for the New Year's party, and she's like,
Mm.
my mom's not letting me go. I'm like, why? And she basically said, it's not safe out there for us. And I came up with the response, why don't you carry a pepper spray? Because I was pretty much, I knew what it was.
Mm.
And she was basically like, you don't get it in India, you get it abroad.
Mm.
And this was at around 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock on 25th December that we were speaking. I still remember it very clearly. And that got me thinking, and it didn't go out of my mind for 2 to 3 days.
Uh,
And I literally had to come up with the formula for pepper spray by Googling it. I had to Google the formula for it.
kudos to you.
And then we got the product ready. And here's the funny part. I've got the
Mm.
product ready, and nobody wants to try it because I can't sell it in the market without anybody trying it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, I had a team of 7, 8 people in my recruitment business. So I asked them, do you want to try it? Everybody's no. And then I was the animal, I was the goat over
Oh
there.
my
So I
God.
had to spray it on myself, video record it completely, until it was something wherein after 2.5 hours, the effect of it faded away, and I could
Oh
see.
my
That's
God.
when I knew that the product would work, and that's how pepper spray took off. And then we went into manufacturing.
Talk about the weirdest things you've done as an entrepreneur. I found one on my show just now.
So when I look back right now, I think to myself, okay, what were you thinking? You had any other better way to do it? But yeah, it was fun. It was fun, and it's always a challenge. But when we got the product off, yes, we were shipping all across India. Like, this is before the deliveries that we have today every day. We were shipping all across India, all walks of life.
Are there any things that you learned from that period in terms of tech and evolution and transformation? Because those were the early years that all of this was kind of coming into the picture, be it e commerce, be it technology. Are there some of the things that you think I've had several founders talk about. Of course, one of the things that everyone has spoken about is the value of the customer itself, which has kind of stood the test of time all across, be it any innovation. But is there something else that you have noticed through those years?
Uh, One thing I have noticed
Mm.
is how everybody wants convenience.
Mm. True.
Now, the value of the customer is somewhere where you want to retain the customer and service them.
Mm.
Where I see it is what is the convenience they're looking at.
Mm.
And if you have a solution, if you're creating a comfort for them, that's when the product is kind of going to move forward. If you
Mm.
don't have a convenience created for them, then it's pretty hard that they would want it. It's just like at those moments, even though we were not online, I think
Mm.
I still remember Google Ads was there. Google Ads
Yes.
were there. And we didn't have digital marketing or any of those job profiles in that era. So I was using AdSense and placing ads everywhere. It was called AdSense at the time. I still remember it,
Uh,
and we were placing it at that time. And for the customers, there, okay, maybe I would have missed something in the coming years when I moved to real estate, but it was the convenience that they could get a product that they required at their doorstep, and it was the convenience. Even the way we had made the mold of the cap was well thought out, wherein they need not have to remove it from the bag and search to remove a cap. They could just
mm.
flip it and just spray it. It's just one finger movement, and that
Mm.
worked pretty well for them. So I think anything that's creating convenience for your customer is something that will get in very well. On the other firm that I run, yes, we find that to be a challenge
Yeah.
because there is, let's say, Batu, which can be automated. Everything can be automated in it. Whereas in the real estate sector, basically, it's the other half of the world that we face over there, where it's more everything's manual, everything's people,
Yeah.
and people are looking for convenience over there too.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Coming to Batu, tell me, and talking about challenges, especially, what are the kind of challenges and opportunities you faced along the way?
So we started on February 2020,
Hmm.
and it might ring bells for anybody who goes back 4 years. That
Yes.
was just 1 month before the lockdown. So we
Yes.
had our first two hires, and the lockdown was called.
Oh my God.
And it's basically a catch-22 situation where you have a budding team who are, dreaming, who are doing something that was not done in the Indian market, and it's still
Hmm.
not done in the Indian market. What technology we have, and suddenly the hiring process comes to a complete halt
Hmm.
because everybody is staying at home for the first time. Nobody knew they could change jobs when they could stay at home. Everybody had to go to office and put down their papers.
Yeah.
So the next 2 to 3 months, at least 5 months, we couldn't hire people completely. And then when we got into hiring them for a startup, there was at least in Bangalore, I don't know across the world, there
Hmm.
was the hike in salaries that went berserk. People wanted talent, so the salaries went berserk. So we had to retain talent and hire in that. And when we moved forward, we had this semiconductor, shortage. It was there all
Yeah.
across the world. Cars didn't get spare parts. So even when we were in the lookout for manufacturers for tabs, basically nobody had products at that time. So finally, almost it took two
Oh,
years to get everything in place when it was 2022, and that's when, let's say, we started functioning at 110%.
yeah. Because that was the time virtual picked up.
Yeah, so that's the time virtual picked up. But then again, we were facing multiple setbacks at the time, from, let's say, talent to even the product itself that we have today.
Hmm.
But in 2022, we overcame all those hurdles,
Hmm.
and then we started moving forward pretty quickly.
Yeah. I've had many people speak about this, that that time kind of brought in a lot of ambiguity, a lot of challenges, but at the same time, what it did for like the growth of virtual and digital and anything technology was massive. And I think that's around the world. But what kept you going? How did you end up holding on to it at that time? What kept you going through that phase?
See, what we're doing is just not business.
Hmm.
It has a certain meaningfulness to it.
Hmm.
Uh, it solves certain issues that are there, whether people openly accept to it or not. So
Hmm.
whenever I've spoken about Batu to not even parents, anybody in the society,
Hmm.
and the only reply I get is yes, it's needed. It's
Hmm.
needed. It's not want. It's needed.
Okay.
So one thing that we knew is we are doing something that would bring positive change and inclusivity not only today, but for the future years to come.
Hmm.
And also, what COVID did was it brought the technology at the hands of every child out there. And
Yeah.
this at least had a certain restriction before COVID, and
Hmm.
after COVID, it was all of everybody had to be online. And now it's just basically somewhere where you are telling the child it's okay to use the
Hmm.
technology, and you are encouraging them to use it. You're making them sit for 5 6 hours on a chair and stare at the screen, and you can't tell them once COVID is over that it's wrong, or
Yeah.
you're addicted to it. So
Yeah.
that made sure that because we were changing a few things, bringing in something that would actually help children and parents, so that kept us going.
And tell me about the product itself, Sandeep. Explain to me about the product itself.
So what we saw in the Indian scenario or Indian parenting is it kind of differs to Western parenting.
Hmm.
That's our predominant target audience or the customer base that we serve. So
In what?
Batu based. Uh, so Indians, uh, we as Indians, we care about our children. We care about youngsters. We care. We want them to have freedom. We want them to excel in everything, but we
Hmm.
also want them to stick to the rules and regulations that we set and the cultural
Yeah.
background also that we have, which is not
Yeah.
there much in the western parts of the country. So
Yeah.
what we basically have done is we have developed Enable Tab.
Hmm.
This is a tab that works like any of the other tabs that you see.
Hmm.
So on the face of it, on the workings of it, or the user experience, you don't find any kind of difference at all. The experience is seamless with any Android tab. Now, on the back end, the parents basically get an app
Hmm.
that can control the entire tab. Okay,
Okay.
so let's just say you want your child to sleep at 9 o'clock. So
Hmm.
you need not see whether they have the tab or not. You
Hmm.
can just set 9 o'clock is the sleeping time on the app, and the
Hmm.
tab basically goes to sleep over there. Now, we have gone into the minutest details where, let's say, it goes to sleep. What if the parents want to get in touch with the child because they're not at home?
Hmm.
Still, from your registered mobile number, you can just call the child and the tab still rings. Only the phone function works at that moment when you call or when the child wants to call, but it doesn't work otherwise to call others or anything. Now you can set screen times for every day of the week.
Hmm.
Children can request for additional screen times. So it's incentivizing them. And then we have an AI tool on the tab itself. Basically, what this AI does is it recognizes any potentially harmful content. So we've covered all these things that usually kids, while growing up, come across. So
Hmm.
what this basically does is this helps parents to speak to the children. So let's just say when they see that some adult content has been seen, they go and ask, "What did you see?" And they should not have been seen. This is not for your age. It opens up dialogue between the parent and the child, which another way would not have been possible. The other way till date that is existent till we release the enable tab is you have to check the history of the tab. You find something and then you whack the kid.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. But this basically makes sure that in real time you can have conversations.
Hmm.
Also, let's just say you can block any app that you find is unsuitable. So let's just say they have an online class, they're
Hmm.
studying for some competitive exam. So you can just
Hmm.
open that app and block everything else so that they can focus on studies.
Hmm.
And let's say you're not comfortable with technology at all, but technology is a need of the hour correct? So
Yes.
then, whenever they're not using the tab or whenever you don't want them to use the tab, you can basically convert the entire tab into a feature phone. So they can just dial you up and you can
Hmm.
dial them up, and nothing else is going to work.
It's fully controlled, entirely controlled by the parent.
Yeah, we have made sure that it's controlled, but we have also made sure that we've done our research wherein parents can't snoop on kids.
Mm.
Now, let's say you are texting your friend, you're
Mhm.
having a private conversation with you. The parents don't get to know as long as you don't cross the line. So you can speak to them. You can discuss whatever your strengths, weaknesses, or any private conversation, but the parents don't get to know them. So only you set up restrictions, and when they cross those restrictions, that's when you get to know.
But what kind of research has gone into understanding what sets the line?
So what we have done is first we did one focus group research of approximately around 30, 40 parents.
Hmm.
And then we did focus group research of therapists and child psychologists who
Hmm.
basically have experience on the field, because again it's a two-side thing. When parents are too strict, it does affect children in the negative way.
Yeah.
And when parents are also ignorant, it again sets a negative path. So we did focus group studies of this to set the path of it. So that's why what at Batu we say, we don't block content, we don't do any of those things.
Hmm.
The reason we don't do it is Batu doesn't take part in how to parent a child. It's the parent that takes part in how to parent a child. So we
Hmm.
just give them tools to make sure that they parent properly.
Interesting. Interesting. And then tell me, from your experience and having, dealt with parents for Patu, tell me, how do you think one can reduce the impact of information overload on children today, with digital parenting being the thing?
See, one thing is don't make the device
Hmm.
something of a convenience for yourself. And this is for parents, how they should be thinking.
Hmm.
Usually, the device has become something of a convenience that you want to watch a show and you
Hmm.
give the tab. You want them to have food and you
Hmm.
give the tab. And you want to be doing something, and that's how it starts. It starts as a convenience again because children eat, children are silent,
Hmm.
and that's how we start them very young. Our research has shown that as young as 2, you start showing them videos on YouTube, thinking
Oh,
jingle bells, because they have to have food. It's as young as that, and then when they grow up, they've already grown up with it, so they don't know that it's an information overload, even though it's happening. So
yeah.
first, it's in your hands. Second, make it any device or any technology that has to be used, make it age appropriate. Nobody needs social media at 9 or 10,
Hmm.
correct? And not all learning happens on YouTube.
Yeah.
Uh, and Because YouTube doesn't have content that's moderated. When I say that, anybody can watch what is there for a 21-year-old,
Yeah.
even if they're 8 years old. So they don't know how they're growing up. They basically don't even get to know the age difference today.
Yeah.
So the best way to do it is from a young age, put restrictions, wherein this is what you're going to watch and this is what you're going to only watch.
Hmm.
And with Part 2, you can always block the apps or block the content that they're watching so that they're more regulated and they stick on to what they have to be watching at all times.
Hmm. And
And
what is
that
the age group for Batu? The age
so,
appropriateness of.
so what we're looking at from the enable tab is up to a 14.
Okay.
And in the coming few months, we're launching an app which
Hmm.
basically can be, installed on any Android phone on the earth. So
Okay.
that would help them till 16, 18,
Okay.
because like Enable tab, the app also comes with geofencing. So that means that you can know when your son or daughter has gone to school, come out of school, or college per se. So we are our only audience that we're looking at is children below 18.
Okay. That's interesting. Sandeep, another thing I Looking back at our chat just now, another thing that stands out to me is the importance of that one insight that really led to. I see that across your businesses, that one insight about be it with the pepper spray, be it with Batu, with the parents. What do you think when it comes to young entrepreneurs today who are looking at a similar trajectory? What would you say about finding that one insight that could then lead into a business idea? What would be your sort of tip or hack or whatever you want to call it to kind of finding that one thing that actually seems to solve something for a customer?
One, don't force entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
I see that happening a lot nowadays because it's great to be called entrepreneur. Okay.
It's
But the
become a
way
buzzword.
Okay, it's the word of the town today. So don't force it, number one. And not all ideas that are meant to happen. And third one is always keep your ears open and do your research after that. When I say that most of the problems come from people around you, you get to know about the problems from people around you whom you work with. It can be an office software, it can be something that's happening in your office or your friends or your family as you grow up. So, when the right moment you think the problem's there, just make sure you have all the tools at your disposal today. Just go online and check what's happening regarding it,
Yeah,
and then you would basically know which way to take on it. And you have to be passionate about the problem. It can't work that you don't believe in the problem but you're just forcing it because you have an idea. If you're passionate about the problem and you have done your research, nothing like it, it's going to be a success. It might get a bit delayed but it will still be a success.
that's a wonderful note. My last question to you, Sandeep, is tell me what's next. You have already hinted that you'll be launching an app, but what's next in terms of Batu and also maybe in terms of your other brilliant ideas that you have in mind?
So, in terms of Batu, one other problem that we have found today, we live in an interconnected world.
Hmm.
So, till now, we were, let's say, in our generation, parents had to deal with TV.
Hmm.
In the very close generation, they had to basically deal with TV and the mobile phone.
Yeah,
Now it's everything: laptop, TV, mobile phone. So
yeah,
everything acts as the same technological device today.
yeah,
So we are looking at an app for TV, which would basically regulate TV, because one thing that we've seen is today content is unregulated because of Netflixes of the world. And also unwanted content is sneaking through different apps on the TV platform, Android platform at least. So
yeah.
we are designing an app for that, where parents can do similar activities on the TV.
Interesting.
And we are also looking at something wherein laptops are quite regulated,
Interesting. Interesting.
because
Looking
everybody's focusing on the phone, but
it
laptops are there as young as once they're 6 years old.
absolutely, it's everywhere. And I think your technology comes at a time where it's much needed. And I look forward to seeing the journey with Batu ahead. Thank you so much for joining me, Sandeep. It's been enlightening for me, and I hope it will be for my audiences as well. Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot. My pleasure.
Knock, knock. Are you still here? Well, I'm super happy that you are. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in. Please do like, share, and subscribe to Karishma Connect across platforms. And I look forward to bringing you many more such amazing stories from around the world. If you've got one, please do get in touch. Lots of love.